Hey everyone, and welcome to this complete explainer. Today, we're taking a massive, definitive visual tour of commercial kitchen equipment. Seriously, if you've ever wanted to truly understand the layout and the exact toolkit of a professional kitchen, you are in the perfect place. We're going to look at everything exactly as it appears in the industry standard training manual. We'll be covering every single piece of equipment, starting from the massive heat sources all the way down to the pastry chef's delicate hand tools.
Okay, let's take a quick look at our agenda. We're going to scale down methodically. First, heat equipment. Second, processing and storage. Third, cookware. Fourth, measuring and hand tools. And finally, number 5, the bake shop. Let's dive right in.
Section 1. Heat equipment, ranges and ovens. As a quick note, the range is absolutely still one of the most important pieces of cooking equipment in the kitchen.
So let's look at the exact types of cooktops. First up, open elements, also known as burners. These use either electric coils or gas flames. They are the fastest to heat up, and you can turn them off right after a short use. But your cooktop space is limited to just one pot per burner. Next, we have the flat top or lightweight hot top. These are burners covered with a steel plate. It gives you more cook space, and the top supports moderately heavy weights. Then there's the heavy-duty flat top, which features burners covered with heavy cast steel. This top supports many heavy pots, though the thick top does require longer preheating. You set the burners for different levels and adjust cooking heat just by moving pots to different spots on the top. A ring top range is a type of flat top that has removable rings, allowing access to even more intense heat from the flames below. And finally, induction cooktops. Now these are wild. The top of an induction unit doesn't even become hot. Rather, it works by magnetically agitating the molecules in steel or iron cookware, so the cookware itself becomes hot. As a result, much less energy is used, and the kitchen stays cooler because only the pots and pans and their contents heat up. There are no hot surfaces or open flames, and absolutely no warm-up is required.
Moving on to ovens, we have 9 specific types. Conventional ovens operate simply by heating air in an enclosed space. The most common ones are actually part of the range unit. Convection ovens, however, contain fans that circulate the air and distribute the heat rapidly throughout the interior. They're powered by electricity using heated coils. Because of that forced air, foods cook more quickly at lower temperatures. Next are revolving ovens. Picture large chambers containing many shelves or trays on an attachment that's literally like a Ferris wheel. This eliminates the problem of hot spots or uneven baking because the mechanism rotates the foods throughout the oven. These are used in bake shops and high-volume operations. Slow cook and hold ovens are modern ovens with more sophisticated features like computerized electronic controls and special probes that sense when a roast is done and tell the oven to switch from cooking temperature to holding temperature. Many of these are designed to be especially useful for low-temperature roasting. Then we have the combination steamer oven, also called a combi oven. This can be operated in 3 modes: as a convection oven, as a convection steamer, and, with both functions on at once, as a high-humidity oven. Injecting moisture into an oven while roasting meats can really help reduce shrinkage and drying. Barbecue ovens or smoke ovens are like conventional ovens, but with one huge difference. They produce wood smoke, which surrounds the food and adds flavor while it bakes or roasts. Special woods like hickory, mesquite, or fruit woods like apple or cherry have to be added to the smoke-producing part of the oven. Infrared or reconstituting ovens contain quartz tubes or plates that generate intense infrared heat. These are used primarily for reconstituting frozen foods, bringing large quantities of food to serving temperature in a short time. The heat is very even and controllable. On the total opposite end of the spectrum, wood-burning ovens are ancient ovens made of heavy masonry, brick, or clay, and heated by building a wood fire inside them. The brick absorbs the intense heat of the fire and cooks food long after the fire has gone out and the ashes are removed. Items like breads and pizzas are baked directly on the floor of the oven, just as in modern deck ovens. Finally, in microwave ovens, special tubes generate microwave radiation which creates heat directly inside the food.
It's really fascinating to see this side-by-side contrast of the highly advanced combi oven right next to the ancient masonry-style wood-burning oven. With those distinct functions anchored, let's transition to some other massive heat sources.
All right, let's talk about broilers. These are sometimes called overhead broilers to avoid confusing them with grills. Overhead broilers generate heat from above, and food items are placed on a grate beneath the heat source. It's a favorite way of preparing steaks, chops, chicken, and a lot of other items. Grills, on the other hand, are used for the exact same cooking operations as broilers, except the heat source is below the grid that holds the food rather than above it. Griddles are flat, smooth, heated surfaces on which food is cooked directly. Pancakes, French toast, hamburgers, eggs, and potato items are what you'll usually see cooked on a griddle. Rotisserie broilers cook meats and other foods by turning them slowly in front of electric or gas-powered heating elements. Even though classical cooking theory categorizes spit cooking as roasting, these cookers are actually more closely related to broilers because the foods are cooked by the infrared heat of the elements. They are especially suitable for chicken and poultry, but you can use them to cook any meat or food that can be held on a spit or in various attachments. Deep fryers have only one use: to cook foods in hot fat. But given how popular fried foods are, it's an incredibly important function. The tilting skillet, also known as the tilting brazier and tilting fry pan, is super versatile. It's a large, shallow, flat-bottomed pot that can be used as a griddle, fry pan, brazier, stew pot, stock pot, steamer, and even a bain-marie or steam table. Steam-jacketed kettles, or steam kettles, are basically stock pots heated not just on the bottom, but on the sides as well. They heat much more quickly and have more uniform and controllable heat than pots on the range. Finally, steam cookers are ideal for cooking vegetables and other foods rapidly with minimal loss of nutrients and flavor.
Okay, Section 2, Processing, Holding and Storage Workhorses. Let's see how this builds your spatial understanding of heavy kitchen processing and holding capabilities.
For processing, mixers, specifically vertical mixers, are important, versatile tools for food mixing and processing in both the bake shop and the kitchen. For attachments, there are three main ones. The paddle is a flat blade used for general mixing. The wire whip is used for tasks like beating cream and eggs and making mayonnaise. And the dough arm is used for mixing and kneading yeast dough. Next is the food cutter, or rotation chopper, familiarly known as the buffalo chopper. It's a common piece of equipment used for general food chopping. A slicer is a highly valuable machine because it slices foods more evenly and uniformly than you can ever do by hand. This makes it crucial for portion control and reducing cutting loss. The vertical cutter/mixer, or VCM, is like a massive, powerful, high-speed blender. It's used to chop and mix large quantities of foods rapidly, or even for pureeing soups and mixing liquids. The food processor is used to chop or puree foods, including raw or cooked meats, and to mix or emulsify things like sauces and flavored butter. With special disc attachments in place of the standard blade, they can also slice, shred, and julienne solid foods. The blender, much like the VCM and the food processor, consists of a motor and a base, topped by a container with a spinning blade. But because a blender's container is tall and narrow, it is more suited for mixing and pureeing. The immersion blender consists of the blade of a blender, protected by a guard, right at the bottom end of a long wand or shaft with a motor at the top. This lets the cook puree or mix hot or cold foods in any container without transferring them to a blender jar. You can literally blend hot foods right in their cooking pots. Lastly, for the chamber vacuum packer, food is placed in a specially designed plastic bag and inserted into the chamber. The chamber is closed and the machine pulls the air from the bag and seals it.
Now for holding equipment. Steam tables are your standard holding equipment for serving lines. Standard-size counter pans or hotel pans are used as inserts to hold the food. A bain-marie is a hot water bath. Containers of foods are set on a rack in a shallow container of water, which is heated by electricity, gas, or steam. Overhead infrared lamps are used in service areas to keep plated food warm before it is picked up by the service staff. They're also great for keeping large roasts warm. Moving to cold food storage equipment. A freezer is cold storage equipment that can maintain a temperature from -18 to 0 degrees Celsius, holding foods in frozen form. A chiller is cold storage equipment that maintains a temperature from 0 to 5 degrees Celsius, usually holding vegetables, fruits, dairy, and bread. A lowboy is simply a freezer or chiller that fits right under the counter. And a walk-in chiller or freezer is a room-sized cold storage equipment with a massive carrying capacity.
Section 3. Cookware, Metals and Vessels. Scaling down to the stovetop, the manual notes that a good cooking utensil distributes heat evenly and uniformly. Two huge factors affect a pan's ability to cook evenly. First, the thickness of the metal, because a heavy-gauge pot cooks way more evenly than one made of thin metal. Second, the kind of metal, since different metals have different conductivity, meaning the speed at which they transfer or disperse heat.
So understanding these materials is absolutely crucial. Aluminum is used for most cooking utensils in food service kitchens. It's a good conductor, and its lightweight makes it easy to handle. But it is a relatively soft metal, so it shouldn't be banged around or abused. Also, do not use aluminum for storage or for long cooking of strong acids, because it reacts chemically with many foods. It also tends to discolor light-colored foods, like sauces, especially if they are stirred or beaten with a metal spoon or whip. Copper is the best heat conductor of all, and it was once widely used. However, it is extremely expensive, requires a great deal of care, and it is very heavy. Today, it's used mostly for show, though a few high-end restaurants still use it for cooking. But be careful. It reacts chemically with many foods to create poisonous compounds, so copper pans must be lined with another metal, like tin or stainless steel. Speaking of, stainless steel is actually a poor heat conductor. Cooking pots and pans made of it tend to scorch foods easily because the heat does not disperse quickly and evenly. But stainless steel is ideal for storage containers because it doesn't react with foods the way aluminum does. Cast iron is a favorite material among many chefs because of its incredible ability to distribute heat evenly and maintain high temperatures for long periods. It's mostly used in griddles and heavy skillets. It can crack easily if dropped, though, and it rusts quickly unless kept properly conditioned. Porcelain enamel-lined pans should actually not be used. In fact, they are forbidden by some health departments because they scratch and chip easily, providing great hiding places for bacteria. Plus, if chipped, the metal underneath rusts easily. Glass and earthenware have limited use in commercial kitchens because they break so easily. They are poor conductors of heat, but are very resistant to corrosion and food acids.
Let's explore pots, pans, and their specific uses. The stock pot is a large, deep, straight-sided pot meant for preparing stocks and simmering large quantities of liquids. The sauce pot is a round pot of medium depth. It's similar to a stock pot but shallower, which makes stirring or mixing easier. The brazier is a round, broad, shallow, heavy-duty pot with straight sides, also called a rondeau. It is used for browning, braising, and stewing meats. The saucepan is similar to a small, shallow, light saucepot, but it has one long handle instead of two loop handles. It might have straight or slanted sides, and it's used for general range-top cooking. The sauté pan, straight-sided, also called a sautoir, is similar to a shallow, straight-sided saucepan, but heavier. It is used for browning, sautéing, and frying. Because of its broad surface area, it's also used for cooking sauces and liquids when rapid reduction is required. The sauté pan, slope-sided, also called a sauteuse, is used for general sautéing and frying of meats, fish, vegetables, and eggs. Those sloping sides allow the cook to flip and toss items without using a spatula, and they make it much easier to get at the food when a spatula is used. And the cast iron skillet is a very heavy, thick-bottomed fry pan, perfect for pan frying when you need steady, even heat.
Continuing with vessels, the double boiler features a lower section similar to a stock pot that holds boiling water, and an upper section that holds foods that must be cooked at low temperatures and cannot be cooked over direct heat. The sheet pan or bun pan is a shallow rectangular pan for baking cakes, rolls, and cookies, and for baking or broiling certain meats and fish. The bake or baking pan is a rectangular pan about 2 inches deep, used for general baking and available in a variety of sizes. The roasting pan is a large rectangular pan, deeper and heavier than a bake pan, used for roasting meats and poultry. The fish poacher is a long, narrow, straight-sided pan with a removable rock insert specifically used for poaching whole fish. The wok is a round-bottomed steel pan with 2 loop handles used for stir-frying, especially in Chinese cuisine. Woks are best used with special burner units that have a high heat output and a broad ring-shaped support that holds the wok steady. Finally, the hotel pan, also called a counter pan, steam table pan, or service pan, is a rectangular pan usually made of stainless steel. It is designed to hold foods in service counters, but it's also used for baking, steaming, and subsequent holding.
Section 4. Precision Measuring and Hand Tools. Zooming in even further, we are transitioning to the chef's personal hand tools, starting with precision measuring devices.
But before we look at the tools themselves, you have to remember this crucial rule right out of the manual. Your hands are your best tools. Machines are intended to be labor-saving devices, sure. However, the usefulness of specialized processing equipment often depends on the volume of food it handles. It literally takes less time for a cook to slice a few pounds of onions by hand than to set up a slicing attachment, pass the onions through it, and then break down and clean the equipment. This is exactly why it is so important to develop good manual skills.
Now for the measuring devices. Scales are vital because most recipe ingredients are measured by weight, so accurate scales are absolutely important. Portion scales are used for measuring ingredients as well as for portioning products for service. Traditional portion scales are spring-operated and usually have a dial to indicate weight. More accurate digital scales are electrically operated and provide a digital readout. Volume measures used for liquids have lips for easy pouring. Sizes are pints, quarts, half gallons, and gallons, and each size is marked off into fourths by ridges on the sides. Measuring cups are available in 1, 1/2, 1/3, and 1/4 cup sizes. They can be used for both liquid and dry ingredients. Measuring spoons are used for measuring very small volumes, 1 tablespoon, 1 teaspoon, 1/2 teaspoon, and 1/4 teaspoon.
They are used most often for spices and seasonings. Ladles are used for measuring and portioning liquids, with the size, in ounces, stamped right on the handle. Scoops come in standard sizes and have a lever for mechanical release, used for portioning soft solid foods. Scoop sizes are listed in Table 3.1. The number of the scoop indicates the number of level scoopfuls per quart. But in actual use, a rounded scoopful is often more practical than a level scoopful, so exact weights will vary. Thermometers measure temperature, and there are many kinds for many purposes. A meat thermometer indicates the internal temperature of meats. It is inserted before cooking and left in the product during cooking. An instant read thermometer gives readings within a few seconds of being inserted into a food product, reading from 0 to 220 degrees Fahrenheit. Many chefs carry these in their jacket pockets like a pen, ready whenever needed. Just remember, instant read thermometers must not be left in meats during roasting, or they will be damaged. Fat thermometers and candy thermometers test temperatures of frying fats and sugar syrups, reading up to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Special thermometers are used to test the accuracy of oven, refrigerator, and freezer thermostats.
Let's move to other hand tools. The cutting board is an important partner to the knife. Hardwood boards are favored by many chefs. Hard rubber or plastic boards are thought to be more sanitary, but there is actually some evidence that bacteria survive longer on plastic and rubber than on wood. Cutting boards must be kept very clean, and they must be sanitized regularly. Color-coded composite boards are designed to help reduce cross-contamination, as each color is used for a different category of food. Next, spatulas. The offset spatula features a broad blade bent to keep the hand off hot surfaces. It is used for turning and lifting eggs, pancakes, and meats on griddles, grills, and sheet pans, and also used as a scraper to clean benches and griddles. The sandwich spreader is a short, stubby spatula used for spreading fillings and spreads on sandwiches. The rubber spatula or scraper has a broad, flexible rubber or plastic tip on a long handle, used to scrape bowls and pans, and for folding in egg foam and whipped cream. The pie server is a wedge-shaped offset spatula used for lifting pie wedges from pans. The bench scraper or dough knife is a broad, stiff piece of metal with a wooden handle on one edge, used to cut pieces of dough and to scrape workbenches. The pastry wheel, or wheel knife, is a round, rotating blade on a handle, used for cutting rolled-out doughs, pastry, and baked pizza. Spoons, which come as slotted, perforated, and solid, are large stainless steel spoons that hold about 3 ounces. They are used for stirring, mixing, and serving. Slotted and perforated spoons are used when liquid must be drained from solids. The skimmer is a perforated disc, slightly cupped, on a long handle, used for skimming froth from liquids and for removing solid pieces from soups, stocks, and other liquids. Tongs are spring-type or scissors-type tools used to pick up and handle foods. The wire whip features loops of stainless steel wire fastened to a handle. There are 2 kinds. Heavy whips are straight, stiff, and have relatively few wires, used for general mixing, stirring, and beating, especially heavy liquids. Balloon whips or piano wire whips have many flexible wires, used for whipping eggs, cream, and hollandaise, and for mixing thinner liquids.
Keeping the momentum going, a china cap is a cone-shaped strainer, used for straining stocks, soups, sauces, and other liquids. The pointed shape allows the cook to drain liquids through a relatively small opening. The fine china cap, or chinois, is a china cap with very fine mesh, used when great clarity or smoothness is required in a liquid, completely avoiding the passage of even small particles of solid matter. A strainer is a round-bottomed, cup-shaped tool made of screen-type mesh or perforated metal, used for straining pasta, vegetables, and so on. A sieve is a screen-type mesh supported in a round metal frame, used for sifting flour and other dry ingredients. A colander is a large perforated bowl made of stainless steel or aluminum, used to drain washed or cooked vegetables, salad greens, pasta, and other foods. A food mill is a tool with a hand-turned blade that forces foods through a perforated disc. Interchangeable discs produce varying degrees of coarseness or fineness, used for pureeing foods. A grater is a 4-sided metal box with grids of varying sizes, used for shredding and grating vegetables, cheese, citrus rinds, and other foods. The plane grater is usually known by the brand name Microplane. These graters shave off thin shreds of the item being grated, the way a carpenter's plane shaves wood, and are available in varying degrees of fineness or coarseness. The zester is a small hand tool used for removing the colored part of citrus peels in thin strips. The channel knife is a small hand tool used mostly in decorative work. A mandolin is a manual slicing implement, consisting of blades fitted in a flat metal or wood framework.
The pastry bag and tubes are cone-shaped cloths or plastic bags with an open end that can be fitted with metal tubes or tips of various shapes and sizes. They are used for shaping and decorating with items like cake icing, whipped cream, duchesse potatoes, and soft dough. A wooden spoon is a utensil commonly used in food preparation, typically a large spoon made from wood. Fun fact, in addition to culinary uses, wooden spoons also feature in folk art and culture. Finally, the can opener. Heavy-duty can openers are mounted on the edge of the workbench. They must be carefully cleaned and sanitized every single day to prevent contamination of foods, and you have to replace worn blades which can leave metal shavings in the food.
And that brings us to Section 5, the commercial bake shop and pastry. Let's explore the highly specialized tools required in this part of the kitchen.
Let's ground our understanding visually with the rolling or pastry board alongside the cooling racks. This really sets the stage for the extensive list of specialty items we're about to cover.
In the bake shop, specialty pastry combs are designed to create line patterns using deco paste, buttercream, chocolate, or specialty batter. A pastry blender or beater is used to cut butter or other fats into dry ingredients like flour. A springform pan is a round baking vessel that features a latch on the side, causing the bottom and sides of the pan to separate. This allows for easier removal of baked goods and creates a tall, straight side edge for elegant presentation. A muffin or cupcake tray is a mold in which muffins or cupcakes are baked. The rolling pin is a long, cylindrical-shaped kitchen utensil generally used to roll out various types of dough when making breads, pastries, and cookies, and it also works well for crushing crackers and breadcrumbs. A meat tenderizer, also known as a meat mallet tenderizer or a meat pounder, is a hand-powered tool used to even out and break down tough cuts of meat, making them more palatable and tender. A pastry brush is used to brush items with egg wash, glaze, and other liquids. A biscuit cutter is used to cut out circular shapes from dough. A dough scraper is used to lift and portion dough. A whisk is used to aerate and blend ingredients. A cake pan features round or square pans with straight sides used for baking cakes. Tart pans are used for making tarts, often with removable bottoms for easy release, while others are perforated or have holes to allow heat to be evenly distributed. Cooling racks are for cooling baked goods evenly. A dough docker is for perforating dough to prevent bubbles. A pastry board is a dedicated surface for rolling and shaping dough. A silicone mat is a reusable nonstick baking mat made of food-grade silicone and fiberglass mesh used to prevent dough from sticking. An air spray, gun, or brush is a specialized tool used in cake decoration. It operates like a small spray gun, allowing you to apply edible colors, paints, or airbrush food coloring to cakes with precision and control. A rose nail is a tool used in cake decorating to make sugar roses. Finally, a blowtorch is a small burner having a device to intensify combustion by means of a blast of air or oxygen, usually including a fuel tank pressurized by a hand pump.
Moving to heavier bake shop equipment. The dough sheeter is a piece of industrial equipment bakers use to make dough in large quantities without taking a lot of time. It's perfect for producing uniform sheets of dough for pastries and breads. The proofer is a specialized cabinet in which the temperature and humidity can be controlled precisely to provide the optimal environment for the fermentation of yeast doughs. When the proofing is done, trays of bread go into a lower holding cabinet before baking. Pizza screens are most commonly used for thin crust pizza as they produce an evenly baked crisp base due to the amount of hot air transfer between the crust and the oven chamber, making them ideal for use in a conveyor oven. The pizza stone's purpose is to distribute the heat evenly so that all surfaces are cooked properly without having to flip whatever you're cooking, and to extract the right amount of moisture so your pizza is crispy every time. The sugar lamp is designed to heat sugar, allowing it to be processed. Made of painted metal and brushed steel, the body can be adjusted in height and inclination, complete with a perfectly flat worktop. The rubber squeeze pump, or sugar pump for sugar blowing, features a metal probe. The aluminum metal end enables you to keep the sugar at the correct temperature and blow some air into the sugar you are working with. Egg separators are small gadgets that catch the yolks but allow the whites to slip through. A cake tester is a thin piece of wire inserted into the center of a baked good to determine if it is fully cooked. If it comes out clean, the cake is done. It's significantly smaller than a fork or skewer, so you won't risk losing too much steam or creating a gaping hole. Oven mitts, or mittens, are used to protect hands from hot objects, like ovens and baking pans, and can be made of leather, cloth, or silicone. A kitchen timer is a device that can be set for a number of minutes that sounds an alarm when the time has elapsed. A tube pan, or tube center pan, is any type of round baking pan that has a hollow tube in its center.
This tube allows for more even baking, and some have fluted sides that give cakes a decorative sculpted shape. The cake turntable stand is used by placing an undecorated cake onto its rotating surface, turning it as you smooth icing, frostings, and decorations evenly. Industrial mixers are heavy-duty, freestanding machines designed specifically for high-volume baking operations, capable of handling as much as several thousand pounds of dough at a time. The dough fermentation trough is used to hold mixed yeast doughs during fermentation. Dividers cut scaled pieces of dough into equal portions by means of a die or cutter. The divider rounder divides the dough and then automatically rounds the individual portions. The molder rolls and forms pieces of bread dough for standard loaves, baguettes, and rolls. Finally, the retarder is a refrigerator that maintains a temperature of about 38 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit or 3 to 10 degrees Celsius, used to slow down or retard the fermentation of yeast doughs.
We're finally concluding this exhaustive equipment list with these last highly specific tools: the croissant roller cutter, the peel, and the bowl scraper. Next is the couche, which is a sheet of heavy linen or canvas used for supporting certain breads. We also have the hydrometer, also known as a sugar densimeter, saccharometer, or Baumé hydrometer, which is used to test the density of sugar syrups. And finally, the ice cream churner, the marble slab, and the cooling rack.
And that brings us to the end of our incredibly structured tour. I want to leave you with this final provocative question. How does mastering these specific tools elevate simple ingredients into true culinary art? Understanding the exact layout and knowing your equipment verbatim really sets the foundation for ultimate culinary efficiency, precision, and quality. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive into the commercial kitchen. Keep learning, and I'll see you in the next explainer.